The Miss Earth pageant was held recently in the Philippines, and it wasn't without its share of controversy. Miss Afghanistan, Vida Samitsai, has made headlines for parading in the competition in a bikini, representing a conservative Muslim country where most women wear head-to-toe burqas. 26-year-old Vida is the first Afghan to compete in a beauty pageant in 31 years. The first Miss Afghanistan, Zora Dawood, who joined the Miss Universe contest in 1972, is now living in the United States. However, the media coverage didn't help her get the title of Miss Earth, which went to Miss Honduras, Dania Prince. The first runner-up was Miss Brazil, Priscilla Zondana. But organisers of the Miss Earth beauty pageant didn't let Vida go home without a prize. They gave her a special award called Beauty for a Cause. Vida, a dark-eyed girl from a Pashtun tribe who fled Afghanistan with her family in 1996, stepped out in a red bikini at the International Beauty Pageant, professing to make the world aware of Afghan women's talent, intelligence and beauty. But she has incurred the wrath of a few Afghans who have seen her photographs or read the international news stories. Afghanistan's Women's Affairs Minister Habiba Surabi was quoted as saying that what Vida has done is not freedom but lascivious. According to the minister, under Afghan culture, women should not demonstrate their worth through their beauty or bodies, but by their skills and knowledge. The extremist Taliban, whose rule Vida escaped in 1996, forced women to cover themselves from head to toe and prohibited them from attending schools, working outside their homes, or stepping out without a close relative. Nearly 2 years after the regime was toppled, competing in a bikini in a beauty contest remains taboo. Back in her homeland, few would know what the Miss Earth title means, but organiser Ramon Monzon said the Afghans should praise Vida instead of condemning her for joining the contest. The primary reason for joining is to promote the protection of the environment. However, while Vida competed with beauty queens from around the world, thousands of Afghan women still watch everything through the narrow holes of their burqas. Vida plans to return to Afghanistan shortly to join her fellow activists to work for the recognition of women's rights in her country.
Over in London, Britain, a collection of 50 sculptures portraying the most famous Tibetan Buddhist teachers in history went on show as part of this year's Asian Art in London festival. The history of Tibetan Buddhism revolves around the relation between spiritual teachers and their pupils. These intricate bronze statues were made by artist monks in monastery workshops to commemorate their illustrious teachers and remind future generations of their spiritual achievements. The Tibetan craftsmen worked in isolation while developing the advanced techniques in casting metal, gilding and inlaying that these figures demonstrate. And as well as spiritual knowledge, these Buddhist teachers often developed political skills to defend their monasteries in times of turmoil. And Tibet was often itself an artistic repository for neighbouring states. This exhibition formed part of the 10-day Asian Art in London Festival, which is everyone's chance to visit specialist galleries to view and perhaps buy Asian artworks from India to Japan.
And also in London, the Caravan and Outdoor Leisure Show highlighted the growing interest in such pursuits. Caravanning is big business in the UK, accounting for over 17% of all holiday spending in Britain. With more residents choosing caravan holidays, it's a booming industry worth around $1.7 billion, and it looks set to grow. Manufacturers of caravans and motorhomes were doing brisk trade at the show. Today's caravans are a far cry from the past. On board there's every luxury available. Caravans start from around $18,000. The UK's biggest caravan and motorhome manufacturer says it sells 30,000 caravans and 8,000 motorhomes a year, with home demand pushing up sales. And for those with a big budget, the Cloudliner motorhome may be the answer, with a price starting at around $235,000. Sales of caravans and motorhomes at last year's show reached $170 million. With more Britons showing an interest in such leisure holidays, the industry is looking to exceed that figure this year.
pair of Colombian students has turned their graduate school thesis into a profitable, environmentally friendly business. George Burgess and Ximena Velez are quite aware that they may receive strange looks as they sift through car tyres, old newspapers and plastic containers on the street. But to them, each piece of garbage is raw material that could be turned into a modern tie, a woman's handbag or even everlasting shoes. Burgess and Velez are the directors of Cyclos Eco Ticino, Cyclos Eco Design, a company born from their graduate thesis which sells fashion items made from recycled garbage. The company's principal message is that garbage does not exist, that everything can be reutilised or recycled, and that we must all care for the earth. The designers said that they both knew what they wanted to accomplish when they entered the industrial design area of the Universidad Javierna. No matter how their studies evolved, they would seek to combine two components: love for design and respect for nature. Cyclos Eco Ticino began as George and Ximena's master's thesis. It has since become so popular that it now takes up 100% of their time. Both designers spent hours creating and making items such as handbags, shoes, clothing and accessories, all from discarded airplane and automobile tyres, acetate records, fragments of fabrics and circuit components, amongst other materials. George and Ximena's immediate goal is to begin with products that will not be a burden on their initial financial resources. Then, as the company expands, they want to have more designers working with them, with the result that they have their own eco-design stores. They have already made a head start on the first stage of their plan, setting up a laboratory where they're experimenting with new materials and developing other materials that would be environmentally sustainable. George and Ximena are currently working on the development of natural resins that would replace synthetics. And the finishing touches are just as important. George and Ximena take pride in each and every product they create. Testing each product is another step to customer and designer satisfaction. And it seems that the recycled products on offer are well received by the public. Once prospective buyers see what George and Ximena have achieved and the quality they have attained with their range of merchandise, they have no hesitation in selecting items for purchase. Currently, the store hires 4 employees and brings in revenues of some $1,500 per month.
And in good news for people suffering depression, neuroscientists have pioneered a breakthrough brain scanning technique. It offers hope to people suffering chronic depression that cannot be treated by conventional drugs and therapy. On average, 1 in 4 people suffer from some kind of mental illness. Of these patients, many are successfully treated. But for up to 20% of people who suffer depression, nothing currently available can cure this desperate condition. However, new hope has arrived. Using harmless and non-invasive magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI techniques, doctors have discovered key differences in brain activity between healthy individuals compared to those suffering treatment-resistant depression. Now that experts know exactly what to look for in a precise area of the brain, new drugs or treatments can be tested on patients in real time, saving the long and expensive process of standard trials. By deciphering complex activity in the human brain, researchers have opened the way for new treatments for people who would otherwise face a bleak and uncertain outlook.
From rags to riches, maybe. It's not your usual glitzy glamour fashion show, but definitely one with a difference. The Dutch Salvation Army's latest attempt to raise cash for the poor is by selling clothes to the rich. The style of this fashion show, held recently in Amsterdam's swanky department store, the Bijenkorf, looked similar to much of what could hit the catwalks in Europe's fashion capitals, Paris and Milan. But look again, these dresses are pieced together from worn t-shirts and a kitchen curtain. The belt and handbags are made from a woolen blanket. These trousers are sewn from a tablecloth, and this skirt used to be a bathroom carpet. Paul Gaultier's latest extravaganza through fabrics? It could well be, but these clothes come from a less glamorous fashion house. The 50/50 new clothing line has been launched by a novice to the fashion world, the Salvation Army, the international Christian charity that feeds the poor and shelters the homeless. Launched to raise money for homeless youth, the collection is made by art director Harry Putz, who, with the help of a stylist, stitched together second-hand garments he found in the Salvation Army's containers and dumps. All the material is donated. This new project makes use of just a fraction of the 11,000 tonnes of clothing and bric-a-brac left annually at the Salvation Army's clothing dumps in the Netherlands. According to Harry, the collection is all about living together in society. His idea was to bring different kinds of clothes and cloth together to make new, unique parts, as unique as every human being is. Pete Steekter, Director of Vintage Goods for the Salvation Army, was enthusiastic about the project, and it is normally very hard for the Salvation Army to get the attention of young people. By launching this clothesline, he is hoping that the Army can bring young people all sorts of messages. And for these homeless people, the project can bring nothing but good news. More money available for help is something that the Salvation Army and others are always concerned about. Well known among Amsterdam's drug addicts and homeless for its free soup and bread, the Army hopes to reach the richer youth through the fashion collection. In line with their mission to bridge the gap between the less fortunate and the rich, the Salvation Army products have flyers attached to them with messages to their customers reminding them to look out for the homeless. The clothes collection hit shelves in Amsterdam's Bijenkorf department store at the beginning of November. Prices varied from $35 for a pair of gloves to more than $118 for a coat. Half of the profit will go to the Salvation Army and will be used for projects for homeless young people.
As a moonlit night falls on Bali in Indonesia, local people come together to perform a variety of rituals and ceremonies as offerings to their deities. And one of the most famous ceremonies is the traditional mask or topeng dance drama, which takes place at least once a month during a full moon. These magical totemic masks have come to represent Bali to many visitors, who are spellbound by their exotic gargoyle-like demeanour and their entertaining presence in evening dance spectacles. The Balinese are famous for carving elaborately detailed wooden masks in a wide variety of forms, reflecting the Hindu belief that everything has an active spirit. A mask communicates some of the life of the ceremonial world that it represents. Although their features are fixed, the masks come to life during a performance as they become as animated as the faces of the human actors. However, these days there are only a handful of carvers left making the traditional Balinese topeng, and all are struggling to keep the art alive. 80-year-old Wayan Tanggu operates from his workshop in a traditional 200-year-old Balinese home, surrounded by masks in various stages of completion. He makes masks of legendary kings and those that represent good and evil. His stained fingers and teeth, lanky physique and deep yet soft eyes give him the aura of a seasoned artist. Tanggu does not refer to any pictures or sketches when carving, somehow transforming a plain block of wood into a lifelike face with striking features and detailed expressions. The masks are painted into an array of local natural colours to highlight their features. The white paint powder is made by mashed pig bones and natural dyes. Not available in regular shops in Bali, the masks take weeks to make as every minute detail needs to be perfect. The mask is treated like a wholly powerful object in the belief that it has the power to heal and teach when used in dance performances. Wayan's current student, Nyoman Sudianu, hopes to continue in his teacher's footsteps and keep the trade alive. Apart from being used in ceremonies, these masks are mainly exported to the West to be displayed in museums and art galleries. The price range from $85 to $850.
Meanwhile, art of a different nature was on display in Britain. The Dulwich Picture Gallery in southeast London hosted an exhibition of 100 works of William Heath Robinson. Robinson forged his reputation and artistic credentials in book illustration, although he had harboured ambitions of being a landscape painter, and is best remembered as the Gadget King for his humorous illustrations and drawings on life. He came to prominence following his first commission in 1897 to illustrate Don Quixote, but went on to establish his own style in Andersen's fairy tales, which he worked on with his brothers. Robinson belonged to the first generation of artists whose work could be printed straight onto a page without using an engraver. Using these skills, he created Uncle Lubin and Bill the Minder. He progressed through to A Midsummer Night's Dream while continuing his black and white illustrations. So what set him apart from other artists? Imagination and superb draftsmanship. He'll be best remembered though for his humorous illustrations of unbelievable situations and problems faced by life, which were drawn in a way that was ahead of his time. It's hoped the exhibition will show the wide-ranging talent and skills of William Heath Robinson as one of Britain's leading illustrators, whose legacy and influence continues to have an impact on artists today.
There was an Asian feel to the start of this year's World Travel Market, as travel professionals gathered for the event to discuss the future of the industry. This year's travel market report found that despite the threat of terrorism, health scares, wars and economic problems, travellers weren't being put off. Two continents expected to see growth of up to 10% in travel over the next 12 months are Asia and Africa. Both tourism authorities believed there were plenty of opportunities still available to attract more tourists. With cheaper travel and people's desire to go all over the world, it's predicted tourism will continue to grow in the next few years.
The Emerald Isle, known worldwide for its crystal, the four-leaf clover and the legendary leprechaun, Ireland has a way of captivating you at every opportunity. And whatever time of year you arrive, there's always something to do. Every season brings its own wonders. Discover the wealth of sports and activities available around the country. Try a round of golf or go fishing in one of the island's clear, unpolluted lakes and rivers. Surf at one of the many beaches, or perhaps sail your way around. But to appreciate the astonishing diversity of Ireland, all you really have to do is look around you. Everywhere you go, you'll find spectacular scenery, from the Fermanagh Lakes to the glories of West Cork and the magnificent coastline, all memories that will stay with you long after you've gone home. Ireland is the perfect place to relax, and the people you meet with their curious tales, captivating conversation and unique way with a phrase, well, before you know it, they'll be having you in for a cup of tea and a chat. And though time may appear to stand still in Ireland, no matter where you go, there's a full choice of accommodation, restaurants and things to do, once you've finished relaxing, that is. The spectacular cliffs of Moher are must-see, overlooking the Atlantic in the west. But don't forget to indulge yourself in Ireland's culture as well. The literary spirit is everywhere, and music from the many clubs and pubs follows you wherever you go, transporting you to a bygone era. Art galleries can be found throughout the island, and no visit is complete without a tour of the Crystal Works at Waterford. Ancient relics remind you of a thrilling Celtic age of warriors and myth. Stately homes and medieval monasteries tell of times gone by, while modern architectural wonders offer a glimpse of a new, thriving society. You could find your perfect partner at the Lisdoonvarna Matchmaking Festival, or flirt with beauty at the Rose of Tralee Festival. Perhaps plan your visit for St Patrick's Day on March 17, when the whole country celebrates with displays and parades. No one is too far away from culture in Ireland, and everyone is close to the magic.
An Indian man has opted for walking backwards as a way to give his message about the dangers of the country's rapid population growth. D. Muniappan, a 33-year-old world record holder for walking the longest distance backwards, is from Salem in India's southern Tamil Nadu state and walks backwards with a straightforward mission. He firmly believes that uninhibited growth in the world's population will ultimately lead to the Earth's destruction and wants everyone to know about it in order to prevent a disaster happening. Muniappan hopes that when he walks backwards, people will pay attention to him, and then once he has that attention, he can deliver his message. And he does have a cause for concern. The increasing population of India means that, at the moment, every year 120 million hectares is being given over to the population, and at least 250 million hectares of green land is occupied for their living and for their food. Add to that the assorted problems of population growth worldwide, and Muniappan certainly gives people something to think about. Muniappan covered 13,105 kilometers across 21 states and Nepal in June this year to break the 12,875 kilometer record set by American APN in 1931. PN had walked backwards from Santa Monica, USA to Istanbul in Turkey in a journey that took him more than a year to complete.
And finally, over in Bombay, Swiss muscle man René Zimmermann beat the Egyptian favourites to become the 57th Mr. Universe at a glittering ceremony recently. The stadium was packed to capacity as Zimmermann beat 190 bodybuilders from 54 countries to lift the coveted title. These were just some of his rivals. Zimmermann's biggest achievement was deposing the six-time winner, Al-Shahai Mabrouk from Egypt. A movie icon back home, Mabrouk, sporting a blonde crew cut, failed to woo the judges, while Zimmermann's distinct moustache stood out in a world of normally perfectly shaved bodies. After the win, René still could not believe his luck. Pleased nevertheless to have taken the title, he acknowledged that while he wasn't the biggest in the competition, aesthetically speaking, he was the best. He received the award from the Deputy Chief Minister of Western Maharashtra State. Though this is the first time India has hosted the competition, it is no stranger to the title, having produced 3 Mr. Universe winners: Manotosh Roy in 1951, Manohar Raich in 1952 and Premchand Degra in 1988.